is because it's coming in the set we're going to start learning next. That's an abdominal hysterectomy set. Okay? These are the instruments that are on the stringer for that set. So I want you guys to come closer and look at the tips and tell me, do you recognize anything on there?
Oh yeah, a lot of it. It's the major minor set.
It's the major minor set, except we just added or tweaked a few things.
That
Right?
one's different. Yeah.
Oh, you mean this one?
Yes.
Tenaculum.
Which one?
Multi-tooth.
Keep going.
But it's
Specific
but,
name.
What's the first letter?
L.
Leahy.
Leahy.
Leahy, that's
Okay? Leahy tenaculum. Okay, what else do you see that's a little different in here?
This one.
Okay, what's this one?
This one.
That's a
These
single
are different. These are, so we're going from here down.
Oh, okay,
It's
we're
a
on
single
one.
tooth tenaculum.
Single tooth tenaculum, and what do we use it for?
Grasping
Connective
cervix.
tissue.
Grasping the cervix. Okay? All right, what else do you recognize? What else do you see that's different?
Those look like cokers.
Which ones? These?
This one. No.
No, they look
Well, I
like
guess
this
the,
one?
I guess it would look like a curved coker, but now that I
look at
see
the
it's not, now
ends.
that you open it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Now that you
coker.
open it, it doesn't look like it.
That's the coker, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do you see that's different?
The grooves.
The
They go
grooves.
this way, and it has that little lump.
That's more of a sling
Like a
and
grass.
it's got like a stop. So you would, is that for needles? Or
Mhm.
something that's,
And that one has it too.
This is a
oh, wait a
clamping
minute, is there a
including.
groove right there?
Yeah, there's
so-
a groove on the
okay.
inside. Yeah.
Okay? So, I'm going to teach you an easy way to remember this. Okay? How many of you guys have gone bowling before?
I went recently.
You went recently? All right.
I lost terribly.
Did you
though.
break 100?
No.
That's always the challenge,
I
right?
know.
The
I was-
100
I
is
was
like the
terrible,
goal.
though.
Okay, so in gynecological procedures, where we're working on the cervix, the uterus, the ovaries, the fallopian tubes, we have these two special instruments that kind of look like a combination where a Coker and a Kelly had a baby, and maybe it came out a little deformed. Okay? Now, there are two key instruments, and they're kind of similar. Actually, we'll use this one. Okay? The shape is similar. Okay? That tooth towards the tip is very similar. Okay? But there's a key difference. One of them has serrations that go kind of in a straight line down the shaft, right? The other one has serrations that go across. Okay? This, the one that has these straight lines, kind of looks like a bowling alley. So, this is your ballantine. B for B. Bowling alley, ballantine. Okay? This is your Haney ballantine. So, when you're looking at these and trying to figure out which one is which, look for the straight lines going down.
Will it always be that the Ballantine has the bigger mouth than the Haney? Will that matter, or that okay?
You're looking at the internal tip here and the serrations, which direction the serrations are going.
So they're called Ballantine as like the Roman numeral 1, and then A and B would be Haney and. No,
So is that a curved Ballantine,
One,
and that would be
two.
a straight
1, 2.
Ballantine?
Okay.
Yes. Okay?
Can the Haney one also be straight?
Yes. Okay? So, these you find in your GYN set.
And what are they used for?
Haney and Haney Ballantines are used for occluding. There are a lot of ligaments and blood vessels that run through the cervix, uterus, ovaries, and fallopian tubes. So if we're doing a hysterectomy, we use these to cross-clamp those ligaments and vessels so that we can either clip them with a clip applier or use a stitch and tie it off. Okay? Now, these look like what?
Tonsils.
Look like needle
Needle
drivers.
Needle drivers. Okay? Very similar. Here's the difference. That curve. Okay? Now, do you remember which one's the Mayo Hagar needle driver?
I'm gonna go with the bigger one.
That
Like the
this
thicker
has a
one.
hole. Does this one have a hole in it?
It does have a hole in it.
So then the bigger one's Mayo Hager.
Okay? That hole that's in the tip is your Mayo Hagar needle driver. Okay? This allows suture needles to pass through the tip. Okay?
So are they holding and then using the suture with the other hand, or is the whole instrument being used in the suture?
The whole instrument can be used in the suturing of it.
Okay.
Okay? So, Mayo Hagar, Hagar needle driver. Okay? Hagar because of the hook.
Wasn't there one that started with the S in the PowerPoint though? I'd have to bring up the notes.
You're talking about a Statinsky.
No.
Are you talking about a Surratt?
Yeah.
I didn't bring one out.
Okay.
Sorry.
Because I was like, that's a hole.
So, if you guys look at this set between the Ballantines, the Haney Ballantines, the Tenaculums, and the Hagar and the Mayo Hagar needle drivers, everything else you already know. This is why it's so important to really start memorizing the features, the tips, being able to identify. So last week when I had you guys put those stringers back together, that's why. It is a great way to force yourself to be able to recognize them. So if there is not an open lab spot available, you can come into the classroom, ask for an instrument set, and dump it and put it all back together. Okay? Okay, so after you guys get done with your midterms, we're going to start playing with this set. Now, there were 2 retractors.
Valve 4.
Valve 4,
And that one's here. Oh, so
Sullivan.
there we go.
the Irish, the O'Connor O'Sullivan. Okay? Now, you guys said you couldn't see the laser.
Yeah.
So, anything that can be removed gets counted. Okay? When I said the wing nuts, these are the wing nuts. You're going to have them on the O'Connor O'Sullivan, you're going to have 2 of them. On a Belfour, you're only going to have 1. Okay? But that is what holds these into place. Otherwise, they just slide, and they don't do a very good job of holding open a wound. Okay? Typically, O'Connor O'Sullivan is going to have 6 for its count. So 6 pieces. The ring is 1, 2 wing nuts, 1, 2, 3 blades. Okay? They're different widths. Sometimes they're different depths. Okay? So, for very tiny women, like Manila. For big-bellied women like Miss A, big blades, okay?
Would you only use one at a time?
You can use 2.
So what happens if you need 2 tiny ones and you only have 1? Would you have to open up a whole, like a new one?
So, when it comes to the blade that we pick, this part always goes towards the head, okay? This part always goes down towards the toes on the patient. So it's sitting like this on them. The entire purpose of the blade that is right here is to protect the bladder. Because the bladder sits in front of the uterus and the cervix. So we don't want to damage it, okay? So we want a blade that's going to be big enough to protect that bladder, okay?
That's why you get 2 big blades.
So now we have the Belfour. Oh, I'm putting it on crooked.
Is it our job to, I'm guessing this is I already knew the answer, but to assemble it and then give it to, and then when we get it back, we have to take the pieces off. and
Yes,
Count them.
so when you send this to sterile processing, you send it with all the pieces off, okay?
Okay.
When you pass this to the surgeon, you pass it closed, okay? You'll grab towards the top wing nut. Jamie, put your hand out. So I'm leaving this stuff out so that you guys can play with it, okay? So it's a compression spring. Put your finger down. Okay. So this stuff will all be out so that you guys can continue to play with it, take it apart, put it together, okay? Like I said, we're really gonna get into this set after our midterms. Okay, so next one. This is a Belfour. Okay, again, any pieces that can come off get counted as a piece. This is the only piece on here that is solid weld. You may have a Belfour where these slide on and off and are interchangeable with different depths. Okay, so for this particular Belfour, how many pieces do I have?
I would say five. Would you count?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? Your job is going to be to assemble this. It will come disassembled in pieces like this. So, again, I'm leaving this out so that you guys can play with it. When you pass it to the surgeon, okay, you want to make sure the blades are facing the same direction. That should be going without saying, right? But it's there. And it's completely closed. Okay? You also want to make sure that this lock hinge is closed. Otherwise, this arm is going to slide right off. Okay? So, again, this is one that you guys can put together and play with. Okay? All right. What about these? Okay, Castroviejo what? Not scissors. Not forceps.
Needle drivers?
Those are needle drivers.
You were using these last week.
When I was doing that anastomosis from where we resected out the small bowel. Okay?
That's a hard
How
one
do you know that they're Castroviejos?
to say.
It's like a
Because
spring.
they're,
That's spring loaded, right? So they may actually come like this. So as the tech, you should be able to figure out, okay, so I've got to twist this arm so that it goes into that slot and locks. Okay? Now, some of these Castroviejos have this little locking mechanism in the middle of it. Some do not. Okay? To lock it, press down and you'll hear it click. You may have to shimmy, just it's like a micro movement. Little front, little back until you can get it to lock. Okay? So, those are Castroviejo needle drivers.
and why would you use those?
We use those in peripheral vascular and neuro and ENT. So small needles, 5-0, 6-0, 7-0, 8-0, 9-0, 10-0, all the way to 12-0. Smaller needles need Castroviejo needle drivers. So if I used a needle driver like this,
The needle would fall out.
yeah, Carrington, do me a favor. See where the top box on the left where it says 7-0 Proline? Grab me one of those. Please. Blue box. Top row, 7-0 Proline. Yep. Thank you. So we talked about how 7-0 is the size of our hair, right?
Mhm.
Okay. Who's got one of those needle drivers? One that locks, the Castros.
So like the one you gave us in that really long pack that class, you would use it on one of those.
So this gives you an idea. Okay? Smaller instruments require smaller, more delicate, or smaller sutures, smaller spaces, require smaller, more delicate instrumentation. Okay? This allows me very little control because it's so big. Okay? The likelihood is I'm going to bend this needle. And it doesn't allow me what we call purchase space. So, if I am sewing here, I can't even get the tip to show.
I can't even see the actual needle.
Exactly. It's
Okay.
too small.
Right.
Versus a Castro, where I have enough room to rotate in my hand to see the needle. Okay? Now, some surgeons may want one that's locking, some will want one that doesn't. They'll tell you. You
Your
don't have to
preference
just know that. Okay?
So why are you using that small needle and not the other?
So when I'm working on small vessels and
Oh,
nerves,
vessel. Oh, yeah.
I need something that's small and tiny because I don't want to have deposits, especially white blood cells, build up on this and form a clot. Okay? Okay. So, we've talked about Castros.
I just remember it was for like the Vina Cava.
Statinsky!
That was good of my tongue.
Yeah. So, this is a Statinsky, okay? It is a locking, is it partial or fully occluding?
Holy.
It's locking.
Yeah.
So it could be both.
It could be partial or fully occluding. You remember what it said on the PowerPoint?
Yeah.
I appreciate the honesty.
You got me
It's
for
fully locked
It is.
because of the ratchet,
It's not just the ratchet,
the finger grips and.
it's the serrations on the inside.
Wait. Holy cow, those are little. First it looked like just grooves.
Has a lot of the same characteristics of teeth as a. Here.
There's a lot to make.
So I'm sorry. What was the final
Like a
answer?
DeBakey?
It's a.
Yeah, the little tiny teeth.
I've never like run my
So what
finger
was
over the debate. I've always
it
looked like
looks
with
just
the
like
debate.
that.
So
The little tiny.
compare the teeth on the DeBakey to the teeth on the Statinsky. Run your finger over it. You're gonna find it's very similar.
Yeah, it is.
It's like little alligator teeth.
Mm-hmm. So why do we use a Statinsky?
So the Vina Cava.
What other vessels could we use it for?
I don't know, I just remember stat. Vina Cava is major, so it's a stat.
Vena cava is major. How about descending aorta?
Oh, yeah.
Iliac arteries, aortic arch. Okay, so Statinsky allows us to occlude that. The angle of the Statinsky that's there allows us to work without having to fight where we're being cross-clamped. Okay, it gives us the ability to have visualization and access without fighting a clamp like this. Okay? John, I keep taking that away from you. Can I see it one more time? So,
You're
here
not
is
allowed to
our
play with anything.
Ballantine, okay? If I put my Ballantine here, I'm fighting it to gain access. However, if I use my Statinsky, I should have put the Statinsky on first. Okay, that curvature, that almost bell shape that's there, gives me better access to tissue in front of and behind where my clamp is versus my Ballantine.
Plus, it's longer too,
It is longer,
so it gives you better.
okay? Okay, so, last clamp. And I said they're little, right?
They are little.
Oh, look at that.
These are
Plus the name
bulldogs.
makes it sound big.
I know.
Bulldog.
They're so
but then
big in the picture.
Little
Yeah.
tinies.
I know. These are bulldogs,
Should have a disclaimer beside it.
okay?
actual size.
Right.
Now I can see why you
Enlarged
are.
so you can see the texture.
And I put it on the towel because this is a hinge. It's a compression hinge. If I put this on an instrument, it puts more pressure on that hinge and they may not function correctly anymore. Okay? We're using these as an occlusion. So they need to be able to close and to stay closed because we're putting these on blood vessels. So putting it on a towel is soft enough and it allows me to pass it to the surgeon just like this. So they can grab it.
Okay.
I'm not even worried about dropping it. They can grab it off the towel
So that's how you would hand it to them?
because they don't have to squeeze it. And I use just the edge of the towel. So all they have to do is pull.
So you just keep some on your back table, ready to go like that.
And they come off prior
The side of the phone.
to the opening of I am wrong. I'm trying to remember.
These are used for small arteries, right?
Small arteries, small veins, small vessels.
So where would you load them on?
You don't have to.
What do you mean load them onto?
Uh-oh.
I just thought they got loaded onto, or they're.
You just hand
Oh,
out.
I'm thinking
Yeah.
of sponges, never
Go on
mind.
the towel.
That's what I was
I know
thinking
that.
of. Forget I said that, rewind.
So we have. Let's see if I have. We'll get to that in a minute. I'm trying to be able to isolate a blood vessel. Here, we'll go off the omentum. Okay, so these little arteries that are running here, the surgeon will take Metzenbaum scissors and they'll clear out all of that adipose tissue. So,
So make like a channel.
pretty much, those are not Mets. Do I not have Mets in there? I like how you guys are all like, wait, I'll find it. I'll find it.
Oh, wait, here they
Got
are.
one.
You do
Alright,
have some mix.
there we go. So the surgeon will create this little channel right here, and they'll ask you for a bulldog. And they'll take the bulldog and clamp it right on the vessel.
Mhm.
And it creates an occlusion so that the blood stops right there. Okay? So, these bulldogs, fun little toys. Okay?
Easy to get.
Not appropriate for children under 3.
Not appropriate for children under 30,
Yeah.
let alone 3.
You just eliminated
We
half
work
the
with a
class
lot
from
of
touching
children.
it.
We work with a lot of children.
You just eliminated
Not
half the
really.
class from touching them.
All right. This is a freer. Okay? We use it for dissecting tissue planes. We use it for shifting around nerves, arteries, and veins because it is atraumatic. Okay? One of the things that's important is that tactile response or feedback that surgeons get from their instrumentation. So if I touch this on my palm here, I can feel the feedback of it into my hand, and it tells me if I'm pressing too hard, if I'm pressing too light. It allows me to feel if it's thick tissue or thin tissue. Okay?
F-R-E.
F-R-E-E-R. Freer. All right. Pistol grip. Kerosene comes in sizes 1 through 5. You will always be able to find the size up here.
2.
Okay?
That's your favorite one, Jamie.
Yeah, I remember yesterday.
I think I like the clipper pliers better though.
They are fun toys, aren't they?
The clipper pliers to me, I mean, that's such a delicate touch that
I know.
you think about.
That'd be probing, right?
Yeah.
Okay?
That
So
probing.
kerosenes are used. Kerrisons are used during neurosurgery. We can use them during oral maxillofacial. We can use them during craniofacial if we have fractures of the face bones. Okay? Primarily used for resecting out bone. So, who's got a Kerrison? I'm not taking it from John.
Didn't even get it yet.
So, I don't know if this one's sharp enough. We'll find out. So, the surgeon will use the back side of it to feel where the back of the bone is. They will close it,
Oh, look at that.
and it will pull out tissue.
That's
This is
pretty
why it is a
amazing.
cutting instrument. Uh-huh. Makes sense now, right?
That's
Now,
amazing.
as the scrub tech, they may pass the tip of this back to you as they're using it. If you have a Raytech in your hand, you can clean it off and they can use it again. They will pass it to you, you'll clean it off with a Raytech, and they'll be, so that way it's not coming out of their hand into your hand, then back to their hand. It's reducing the movement and it's
Efficient.
efficient. That was our
Which is
word
why
yesterday,
you have
guys.
Soaked.
The Raytech sponge, is it just dry or
Yeah.
does it soak?
No, it's
before you
just
wipe
dry.
it? Does it
Because
dry
you're
Raytech?
just sweeping it across the top here. Now, as you do that, I want you guys to feel the top here. Feel it gently. Like, don't slam your finger into it. Okay? Think about having gloves on. And
Cut right through it.
okay, so you've got to be very delicate but purposeful. That Raytech sponge in your hand really protects your glove. It's the whole
Just
purpose
like
of the
that, you're
Raytech.
contaminated.
But will that not like mess up the sponge or like get some stuff?
We're okay with it messing up the sponge, but all surgical sponges are lint-free, so we're not worried about that.
But would it
Would it
snag
tear?
the?
Yeah, that's what I was.
Like, would
Like,
it-
will
one
it
of the
catch?
Like, will it
leave some
snag
on
it, and
there?
then by the time he's taking it back, would it have like a piece of Raytech or anything on it? Okay.
Mm-mm.
Oh, that's
Okay.
really sharp.
Now, Kerrisons work on a hinge, okay? So somebody in sterile processing may decide to be funny and send it to you like this,
Oh, God.
like what? Okay? They may have taken the upper tract, I don't know if I can get this one loose, out of the lower tract.
Holy cow, so
Um,
you can get a bunch of pieces and parts.
Yeah. So, when you get your Kerrisons, if you use a freer elevator, you can tighten these screws down. Why do we want to do that?
To make sure it
make sure
doesn't
it
break.
Doesn't come apart.
Yeah.
So now here's the question: since it comes apart like that, would you count that as different pieces, or is it still just one piece?
Still just one piece.
It's a mechanics 101.
I always joke that part of our job description is being MacGyver. And people did not know who that was until they rebooted the show on CBS.
God.
Seriously?
Seriously. But
Were you talking to a bunch of teenagers?
I feel like it.
I'm like, how old were these
MacGyver
people that we were
was my
talking about?
MacGyver.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, how old were these
He
people
was,
that we were talking
he was
to?
my, he was my hero.
No,
Watch
it's
MacGyver.
okay.
Love MacGyver.
Oh.
He
Okay.
just turned 23.
So, now we go on to
Oh.
rongeurs. And we listed them as two different types, right?
Oh, so there's 3 types.
Kerrisons, single action.
These are for larger bone.
Blumenthal, single or double?
Single.
Single. Okay, Steely,
Double.
double. Okay,
No wonder people hurt after surgery. I mean, seriously, some of this stuff, you look at what you're doing to the anatomy, like going in there and
Crying
getting a
and
little bit of
poking.
bone.
Oh my
Yeah.
And rearranging stuff.
Rearrange.
Jamie's like, oh my gosh.
If you thought the last one was that.
Right.
so
Took a whole
the whole
chunk
point
off.
of a rongeur.
That's like a hole puncher for the skin.
For the
Right.
bone.
Or for the bone, I mean, that's crazy.
And they go off the pathology to.
Pathology is only for tissue. Or is it bone too?
They do bone.
Wow.
Why would bone not go?
That's crazy.
Resident expert.
Yeah, no, I know
But
she is.
usually
That's
it's
one.
like just a gross examination of bone, so they just look at it to make sure there's no abnormalities.
Okay, so I tried to find a bolt. I don't know what happened to it, but same thing with the kerosens. When you get rongeurs, you want to use your freer and you want to tighten down those screws. Okay? They can come loose during a case. And sterile processing is very bad about tightening them down before they sterilize the set. So it's on you to make sure that they're tightened down. Okay? Covered.
This was what again? This
Steely.
Steely.
S-T-I-L-L-E. Steely. There you go. There's your bone.
It's crazy.
And the kerosene. Those are the three that were on that slide, right? All right. Ready to play with staplers? Gosh
Uh-oh.
darn it.
Whoa.
Would you like
Oh,
us to
I
pick
was
it up
like,
for you?
how did
No.
that go flying?
I need to find a
I was
substitute.
like
I need to get
static
rid
or
of this.
something.
I need to get rid of
Get
this.
rid of that. Is there a shark?
Not in here.
Mm-mm.
Oh, wait. Yes, there is.
I'm flabbergasted.
Okay, so we're gonna play with skin staplers. You guys are all gonna use a skin stapler. Okay? Now, remember when we put this clip on here, this bulldog? The whole purpose of it was to occlude, cut off blood, right? Okay. We played with disposables of these. Jamie, what is it?
Clip
She's so
pliers.
It's a
excited.
clip plier. You're gonna fire all of them, aren't you? I'm gonna have to get another one down. So, how many clips start in that clip plier? Shh.
15.
I was trying to get the Friday people in here.
15.
How do you know it's 15?
Because they just said.
No. How do we know it says? How do we know it starts with 15?
Because it said it in the
PowerPoint.
thing. Yes.
There's 5 in a row.
It says it on it.
I was gonna say, there's gotta be something on the instrument, or, yeah.
All right, no more firing of it, so that we have
Yeah,
enough
no,
to.
I was.
Alright.
Oh, it tells you. It says 15 clips on this side.
So does that mean
It says
15?
medium
So
large
also
and it
when they're
says
talking
15.
clips, like, one bar is a clip that has 5 in it, so there's 3 bars.
That's
No.
preloaded.
Okay, so it's 15 total.
Clips.
Like clips
There's
on the
five
inside
bar-
of
Where you
it.
go,
five clips
Jamie?
on a bar,
I don't know.
3 bars.
Tammy, you still have yours?
Yeah, it's right here.
Can you pass it around?
Yeah.
That way people
So
can
it's
see.
like so it's literally the same thing that we did last class, only
The clip
that's
plier and the
yeah,
bar,
only
that
that
we were
one's
doing?
just already loaded. and
preloaded.
That's
Has-
much better than
It's
having
way
to.
better. Oh my god.
So,
Yeah.
So it comes packaged with the clips already in it. 3
Correct.
bars.
Because it's a one-time use thing. So after
Correct.
those 15 are gone, that's it for that.
You
Yes.
can't reload it, you throw it away,
I'm trying to see if I have a handheld one in there.
right?
The whole thing gets thrown away.
That's crazy. How much does that cost?
I know. I feel like it would be.
Like, how much does that cost
so
to
much money
replace it?
with the
Right.
Little
It's 4 figures.
other one. Yeah.
Hmm?
It's 4 figures.
For one?
That's crazy.
Now, the other image that I had for you guys was,
No
this
wonder
is
why we
for
don't get paid a lot.
laparoscopic.
Yeah.
So this is for laparoscopic cases, right? And I explained to you guys how laparoscopic is like the straw that holds open,
Yeah.
okay? And we stick the instruments down so it's less trauma. So that would be a laparoscopic option. There was a smaller version of it that was an image on there that we used for open cases, okay? But they do the same, no, it was on the actual slide itself.
Oh.
But they do the same thing. This takes out user error in loading. And the time it takes for the tech to load it, pass it to the surgeon to be used.
Did you think about how
Because
much
if they
time
were
to
waiting on
load
me to
15
pass it
clips
like
up?
on last class, they would never
And,
get a clip.
You know,
Versus
if
they
you
would just
have-
pull a trigger.
Yeah.
Right,
You know,
and
so
if
remember
you
last
haven't
week when
become
we
really
used those huge
proficient with
scissors?
Yeah.
doing it, you're gonna
That's
drop
that.
some.
It's literally
Mhm.
the same thing. That's why I'm like, if you're waiting on me to pick up a clip and pass it, they'd
I
be
didn't
sitting
fire
in
too
surgery
hard.
forever waiting on me.
Yeah.
Because I drop it 50
So-
times.
I'll save the clip.
This is our laparoscopic version. You notice the grip up here? This allows them to articulate
Oh, cool.
or turn
Which is something you can't do with a clip of pie or that we were messing with.
You'd have
to
to
get
your
around
wrist.
different
Mhm.
structures. Okay? So, during a laparoscopic case, we may not have a bulldog, okay? But we may have these vessels that we need to occlude,
Oh.
But
Okay.
you're gonna leave them occluded then?
Yeah, do they?
So how do you take them off though?
they will
don't.
stay.
They stay forever?
So how did they decide?
Like
'cause the
for
bulldog's
forever,
not
so
gonna stay
then blood's
forever.
never going to that.
But
That's
look at
what
all,
again.
you still have
gonna
a
die.
lot,
Flow, yeah.
you still have a lot of blood flow going on, okay?
Okay.
So once they get these clipped, they'll take scissors, usually if we're doing this laparoscopically through our little straws, they have little laparoscopic scissors. And that's where they cut, okay? That's all it is.
But they would still keep the clips on them to close off both ends so blood
So it
isn't
doesn't bleed
just.
out, yeah.
So we can see, for the rest of the case, what we do. Okay?
It was funny because the other couple weeks ago, I had an x-ray just going for chiropractic. And I was looking at it with the doctor and I'm like, is that a piece of something in me? And he's like, oh yeah, that's where your gallbladder was. I said, well, I know that, but
That's where they clipped it.
yes.
Oh, so
I
you
was-
have a clip inside of your belly right now.
So they took the gallbladder and they just clamped it like what she just
Mike, how
did.
come they don't like?
That's what
I mean, I don't know if this is even correct. How come they don't like burn it off to like close the? Yeah, they would go.
Because there's
cauterize
no
the
guarantee that it'll stay closed.
Right. So with the clip,
It's
and it's-
guaranteed to stay
it's
closed.
been
How do you
closed
know
for
the clip won't
17
move?
years.
Usually they put 2 clips on.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll put 2 clips closest to where the organ is that's going to stay, and 1 clip below where you're going to cut, because that part is gonna be removed out. So those 2 clips are kind of like a double insurance policy.
It was rather shocking.
Okay.
I was like,
Right.
wow.
I'm like, that's interesting.
Then you
Okay.
read this, I was like, oh, that's what's in me.
So, this is another laparoscopic stapler, okay? Look familiar? Tammy's like, where's my sheet?
I know.
Okay,
It is a laparoscopic.
what is this?
Cartridge.
A cartridge, okay? I'm gonna have you guys practice loading these. You'll notice there is a sleeve protector on top of it. Keep that on there, okay?
When you load it? Or
When you
just-
load it,
We're playing.
when you're loaded, because you can feel there are little prongs that stick up here from the actual staple load, because these are the open end that gets pushed up and closed with the
So you
clamp.
never wanna take that off.
Not when you're loading it, no.
So it comes off before the surgeon uses it.
It comes off before the
So
surgeon
your
uses it.
responsibility to take it
To
off
take
as you
it off
handle it?
before you handle it.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, so, when we're loading these, and I've got extras down here if you need them, I'm taking this off so you guys can kind of see, okay? You're gonna notice this kind of bevel at the top. That lines up with the top up here, okay? When you load the stapler, you wanna come in at a 45-degree angle. So it's almost like you're matching the angle of the jaw at the top, okay? So 45-degree angle, and you're gonna snap it down in. Just wanna make sure it's fully opened. Okay? You will have preceptors that will open these. I'm trying to see if there's no way back there. It's like my table of tricks down here.
I know.
They have regular, and they have.
I think what's
There's that.
No, it's not.
Table of tricks.
Well, a small one.
Your tricks have to all be on top.
Okay, you have extras. It's been in and out so many times. Okay, so 45-degree angle, slide it back, and then you're gonna snap it down in. And you will see there's this little slot here that sits the cartridge. Okay? That seats the cartridge. Once you get the cartridge in, you're gonna take off the protection, the cover, and it's ready to use.
Does that get counted?
These
Yeah.
cartridges,
Yeah.
these, no. You usually have a trash bag hanging on your table
Okay.
that comes in your pack. It's a sterile trash bag. So these normally get tossed. These go in your sharps container once they're emptied.
Is that plastic bag that's in the basin? Okay.
So, at the end of the case, when the surgeon hands this back to you to remove the cartridge, grab it with your fist at the top. You're going to use your thumb to push the cartridge that dislodges it from where it got locked in. Okay? And you're just sliding it out. Once it's out, then we rinse it in sterile water. Okay? If you look at the top of it, those indentations there, that's what's responsible for closing the staples. That's where they can get stuck.
Is that considered the anvil?
This is the anvil.
Okay.
Okay?